I would like to use this video to talk about patterning in both the sketch environment and the modeling environment in Autodesk Fusion 360. Sketch patterning is not normally used because it's easier to make one feature and pattern within the model. It's used when you want to make a pattern of profiles that you want to use differently. For example, let's go ahead into this sketch and edit it. I'm going to pattern this small block at the bottom. There are two types of patterns available in the sketching environment, rectangular and circular. I'll pick rectangle in this case and select everything with a window. Now the direction is going the wrong way, so I can pick on my direction and change my direction so it's going the other way, so it's positive. I can either drag the distance or I can type in the value. Now notice it defaults to extents. Normally, that means that it's going to take this length across here and divide by the number of units. So 3 1/4 divided by 3 is evenly spaced. Likewise, if I want to drag it up, I can, or I can just enter a value. In this case, I want 4 inches divided by 3. Now you'll notice if you change from extents to spacing, it will maintain what you have entered and divide it out. I'll say OK to make my pattern. Stop my sketch. Now, if I want to use these for different extrusions or cuts, I could do so, each one individually. That's the purpose of sketching using a sketch pattern. Now I'm going to show you something weird about a sketch pattern. If you want to get rid of it, you're going to have an interesting thing happen. So you go to the pattern feature right there, pick it, right click and delete it. It still leaves the sketches. So you're going to have to manually delete those. So just pay attention to that after you finish. Of course, you can leave them there if you want to and just ignore them, but it's up to you. Let's move into the modeling environment where most of your patterning should be done. If I look under the Create, I will see Pattern. There are 3 types of patterns available to you in the modeling environment: rectangular, circular, and along a path. Let's go to rectangular first. Now there are 2 ways you can select the features I want to pattern this slot. I can do it by faces or features. I'm going to use a feature and select it from the timeline. If you don't have a timeline, you can use faces. My direction I want to do it is I want to start this way. I can drag again if I like, or I can enter the value. Now notice it starts at an extents. I'm going to leave it there and change this to 2 1/2. I'm going to then go the other direction. I can just enter the number if I want to go to 2. Maybe I'll go to 2 1/2. Now at this point, if I change to spacing, it will maintain that same distance and just divide it out. Now down underneath the compute options, when you're using features, you have optimize, identical, and adjust. Now you notice that this part has a different thickness. So I must use adjust to make sure it goes through the complete thickness. So I say OK, and it goes through. If I had not done that, let's just see. Take off adjust and just put identical. You'll see it doesn't clear where the thickening. This is because the thickening came after the extrusion. Let's continue by getting rid of that pattern and do a different one. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to suppress that particular feature, and I'm going to unsuppress another. In the center. So I'm going to now do another circular. I'm going to do it symmetrical this time. Go to my pattern, circular. I'm going to pick on features. Pick on that feature from the timeline. I'm going to pick my axis, same axis, but I'm going to do it symmetric. I can again drag it so it fits, and I can drag the number, or I can enter it up at the top. I'm going to put 5 and 90 degrees. And I have the option again of adjusting if I needed to. In this case, I do not need it. But there's symmetrical pattern on a circular pattern. Let's move on to patterning along a path. I have a feature and I want to put along this spline path. Now here's where things change a little bit. You're going to have to select the feature. You cannot select features, you must select faces for along a path. So I go to pattern along a path. I want to use faces. I use a window, it's much easier. Then I pick the path and I can drag it along the path. Now you would like to use the full extents and divide it out by number, let's say 5. How do you measure the extents? Now watch closely. If I drag the arrow, it will lock at the end. See it lock? So I drag it to the end. When it locks, I let go. And that is the length of the path, divided by 5 parts. Now if I go up here and change to spacing, it will maintain that spacing and divide it out for me. Now identical or perpendicular or path direction. Now identical would be just the same orientation it is now. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back now and edit it and change to perpendicular or path direction. This will orient them perpendicular to the path. Let's continue with pattern along a path. This particular part, I have a hole I want to put through the flange. Notice the hole is along a tapered edge, so it's going to be necessary to do an adjust to make sure it cuts through. So I'm going to use faces again because pattern along a path requires use faces. Pattern along a path. I'm going to pick the hole as my face. I don't need to put a window, just pick inside it. That's the whole face. The object is, now the path is the outside rim. Now we don't know the length of it for the extents, but we would like to find out. Same as before, drag the arrow around it and it will lock at the very end and measure it for you. That's the extents. And we're going to divide that out. I want 12 holes, so I'm going to do 13 spaces and suppress the last one. Now I want to do it identical. No, I want to do a path orientation to keep that that little taper on the hole oriented according to the tapered side. Say OK. And if you can see, it kept the hole perfect. Now, if I go back and edit that pattern, actually I want to go back and look at this. I have how many holes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's one on top of it. So I need to edit the pattern and I need to get rid of this 1 right there because it came back on itself. Now I have 12 actual holes. Patterning can be done after the part has been changed into a component, still using the body of the component. This part was a body, is now a component. Let's go ahead and make the pattern again. Pattern along a path. Remember, you must use faces when you're pattern along a path. Inside there. The path is the outside. I want to do it completely around. Now you may get a warning, just ignore it. Go ahead and drag it around. And if you come back, it'll lock on to give you the exact length. I want 12 holes, so I want 13 spaces, or 13 quantity. I'll suppress the last one. Now I don't notice they're falling off the part. I want to be sure and make them follow the path. Say OK, and I have it. Now don't forget, before you really say OK, you can do it then, is suppress that last one, because you don't want the 13th hole. Again, it works in a component just like a body. Hope you enjoyed it and learned a little something. Thank you.